Hey y'all, if you're already subscribed, welcome back my darling. But if you have not yet subscribed, what are you doing? Subscribe. I'm a part of the Morgan Shay gang by clicking that little bell and turning your post notifications on. All right y'all, let's get into today's story time. Anxiousness that I feel is crippling. So as most of my stories go, we're gonna go back in time, and P.S. everything I'm about to say is 100% without a doubt a fact check. Like, send it to the bank, cash the check, get your money, strike me dead, this is a fact. So you guys have seen on my channel where we have talked about the paranormal. We've talked about it a lot here on this channel. I played with the Ouija board. I invited some shit. I lived in a townhouse that was extremely paranormal. I mean, very, 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 like so much paranormal activity going on in there like you could not believe. If I knew you 10 years ago and you came to my house, chances are you experienced this spirit. There was a spirit that was basically, I guess you could say, chilling in our townhouse from the jump. And then there was something that we invited in after we played with the Ouija board. And I've told my Ouija board experience. So after we had played with the Ouija board, I ended up moving into this next place by myself. And I didn't live in this next place long. A lot of that had to do with the fact of all of the paranormal activity that I was experiencing alone. And I very quickly got a roommate and moved out of the second house. My first townhouse, like I said, it ended on a bad note, and that's not the story we're gonna tell today. It got super paranormal. And in my mind, I thought, okay, well, if I move, things are gonna get better. Also keep in mind that this is during my stalker as well. He's very active. At this time, I was thinking that it was everything that was going on was my stalker. And later I would find out when he confessed to everything that he done. And what makes it even scarier is I now have proof that he was in prison the entire time that I lived in this house. And that is the reason why I didn't have any experiences with him while living in this house. I move into this place. I'll say for like the first couple of weeks, everything was super, super normal. Like there might have been like little things happen, but it wasn't anything that I was like, oh, okay, that happened. One night I'm coming home, and you have to understand, in Tennessee, there are a lot of these little back roads. And these back roads can be terrifying at night. There's no light at all. It's literally something you would see in like a scary movie. And typically I would have a friend stay over, but this in particular night, there was no one staying over with me. And I just got this really uneasy feeling as I turned on the main road that led to my house. The closer I got home, the more heavy I started to feel, and it was like a very sad feeling. It was almost, there was no one in the world for me. Like I had nobody for real. Like not that I was just going home by myself that night, but that I had nobody. I had nothing. And as I pulled in my driveway, and this is super important, so remember this, there was a glass door in front of my actual door. There is no possible way that this could have happened because this glass door had metal bars on it, okay? It was one of those, I'll put a picture on the screen of what kind of glass door I'm talking about, but it had like a metal design in front of it. It was super, super heavy. It wasn't your typical like cheapo glass door. Pulling into the driveway, I seen that door was fully closed. Seen it completely closed. I also need you guys to understand the force that it would take to open this door. Like, this door was super heavy. This story time is also taking place in the dead of August in Tennessee, where it's always humid. We're in that time of year right now, and it's hot. There is no like crazy breeze or anything like that. There was nothing like that this night. That is why this freaked me out. Had this not happened, I think I would have just thought, oh, well, I must just be in my feelings tonight, and I would have went in and went to bed. But when this happened, I was like, okay. And this is the first thing that like hit my radar. Pull into the driveway, I visually see that the door is completely closed. I get a call from my best friend at the time. I answered the phone, and I'm talking to her for a minute. I get out of the car while I'm still talking to her, And she's talking, and I'll never fucking forget, you guys, when I turn around and look at my fucking front door and it is wide fucking open. I need you guys to picture this. If the wind were blowing, that door would be waving, right? No. This door was all the way open, pressed against like my living room window. Like it was all the way open, as if you were to open a glass door all the way and it was standing still. I need you guys to understand how fucking impossible that would be. It was if someone was standing there holding the door, but nobody was there. I see that, and I'm on the phone with my best friend who just so happened to be on her family vacation this particular night. And so I knew she couldn't come over. And I immediately start crying. I've never cried on the spot like that before, ever. Aside from me finding out that my nanny died, like I've never like on the spot looked at something and cried. Like I was hit with this overwhelming emotion. Like I felt so much fucking sorrow. Like I was anxious, I was sad, I had so much, I felt like the weight of the fucking world was on me, y'all. Like and I felt ashamed for some reason. Like it was a very weird feeling, and I have all of this written down in a journal. I've kept journals my whole life, and that's where these stories come from. That's why I'm able to remember so much, is that I wrote things like this down. And as I'm reading this, like I remember all of this shit. I remember feeling this feeling. And so I'm on the phone with my best friend. I start crying. She hears me start to cry, and she's like, Morgan, what's wrong? It's going on. I know it is. And she's like, what are you talking about? And I said, my metal glass front door is wide open all the way. And she like interrupts me. She's like, Morgan, it's probably just the wind. And no, the wind is not blowing, and it's pushed all the way up against the house. At that point, she was like, oh my God, because there would be no way. So I'm like, please just stay on the phone with me. I don't know like what I thought she was going to do, but somehow like just having her voice on the other end of the line was very soothing for me. I went inside of the house, and immediately entering the home, I felt super eerie. I felt not alone at all. I felt like every step that I took, I was being watched. I honestly felt like there was a room full of people, and remember that because that's going to be important later. I felt many different presences. I felt many different emotions. And this is going to sound weird, and out of all the paranormal stories that I've watched on YouTube, I've not heard anybody say this that I could find. I felt different ages. It was very bizarre. It was almost like I felt like these people in a way. It was very weird, but I felt young but old. It was very strange. It was a very, very strange feeling. I stay on the phone with for a little while, and finally my nanny calls me, and I talk to her. Nanny fully believed in the paranormal. If you haven't watched all the videos that I've done on the activity that happened when I was a kid, like the story of baby and all of those, I'll have the whole playlist in the description box. See, the house that I grew up in was absolutely crazy. And so that's really when paranormal things really started for me. They got scary when I played with the Ouija board. With my nanny, I tell her what happened, and she's like, okay. She was like, do you have any sage? And I said yes. And like, she says a little prayer, and I light some sage, and I walk around the house, and this house was, I need you guys to know this, was brand fucking new. I was the first person to move into this duplex. Nobody had lived there before. I had a neighbor that lived upstairs, but the other two duplexes, the one like diagonally up from me and the one next door to me, were empty. But I did have somebody that lived upstairs, and me and her had kind of like become friends. And as I'm walking around the house saging, I hear footsteps. And at first instinct when I hear them, I'm thinking, oh, that's her. We'll call her Sarah. I'm like, oh, that's Sarah. The only reason why I'm giving Sarah a name is because Sarah will come in later. I do have permission to use Sarah's real name because we are friends currently, but I'm just going to say Sarah just for her privacy. So at first, like when I first hear it, I think, oh, well, that's Sarah. So I keep saging, whatever, and as I get to my bedroom, The footsteps become stomps. They're no longer footsteps. They're like a stomp, like what you stomping your feet would sound like. And it almost sounds like they're coming from my living room specifically, like not upstairs. Like it feels like it's like behind me in my living room, which was like a wall between my living room and where I was standing. As I turn around to kind of like look at the living room, that wall that I just mentioned, that literally is a barrier from the living room to my bedroom. As soon as I turn to look at that wall, all of a sudden I hear bang on that wall so hard that the wall rattled. I scream, obviously. My nanny's like, what? And I'm like I couldn't even talk. I couldn't even speak. When I finally did speak, I had tears running down my eyes. I said, I've got to call Sarah. I call Sarah, and Sarah is full-fledged crying.